Welcome to Coffee Commerce. My name is Sean Ramett, and I'm the grandson of a coffee farmer from Guyana, South America. On Coffee Commerce, we talk about the stories behind coffee as they relate to commerce, culture, and society. In the past, we've spoken about the fascinating stories of how coffee houses were popular in England before it was known for a nation of tea lovers. Coffee houses had become a platform for the transition of business and ideas. It played a key role in the Age of Enlightenment, and perhaps even one of the most important times in England's history. Some of the regulars at coffee houses included Joseph Priestley, Richard Carwin, William Nicholson, and James Watt. And they would be involved in starting a new area of industry that would become known as the Industrial Revolution. Some of this would start at coffee houses like Slaughter's Coffee House. At Slaughter's were many budding entrepreneurs and scientists coming together to exchange ideas and share the various improvements in life that were emerging at that time. Many had the idea to make the world a better place. Slaughter's was a popular establishment through the mid-1700s, serving not only coffee, but also potatoes and neck of pork. Some of the patrons included Benjamin Franklin, who would spend time with Priestley. Franklin would have been discussing some of his ideas around static electricity, while Priestley had provided updates on his experiments around electrical conductivity. William Nicholson became well known for his work in chemistry and invented electrolysis, which had various impacts on the Industrial Revolution and even today. By the 1780s, Nicholson's scientific achievements were being recognized and was elected to a band of scientifically inclined people at the Chapters Coffee House Society in London. It would be here at this coffee house that Nicholson would have met Priestley. This was thanks to the Irish chemist Richard Carwin, who had founded this philosophical coffee society. The Industrial Revolution was a defining moment in how we were to live our lives. People began moving away from farms and agriculture, migrating instead to cities, which continually became more and more crowded. The labor force worked 12 to 16-hour days, almost every day of the week. Life suddenly sped up, and demand just kept growing. Life was very different before the Industrial Revolution. Workdays were based on the sun, with workers rising at dawn to tend to their tasks and retiring at dusk as the night settled in. The lack of electric power or a form of sufficient illumination limited the work hours to what was available for light. Relative to other nations, Britain's labor costs were high and energy costs were low. This became motivation for change, how to produce more with the same or less workforce, or in other words, more for less. Other countries would not see the need to innovate as labor costs were lower, and in some places energy costs were higher. So adding more labor to an industrial requirement was a suitable alternative to innovation, what may have been perceived as more expensive option. Having a lower wage labor force would be easier to scale up or scale down based on demand. The concept of building infrastructure and taking on more risk and capital were difficult to grasp at that time for some other countries. By the second half of the 1700s, the Industrial Revolution started to stir and to transform Britain, something that would spread to Europe and to the US as well. Coffee now became a drink that would be common with working class people and in their everyday work hours. This was seen as something that would not only keep them awake, but also to increase their productivity. The Industrial Revolution, occurring during the 18th and 19th century, modernized the world and led to new industries, technologies, and social practices. It is arguably that coffee played a role in the advancement of this era. In order to last and stay alert during the excessively long and oppressive days, workers relied heavily on coffee and its energy from caffeine. Boiling water to make coffee helped decrease the spread of disease among workers in crowded cities. At that time, workers were forced to work hours on end with little pay and food. Coffee was one of the only comforts and was relatively inexpensive. To this day, it remains a drink of choice in workplaces, largely thanks to the Industrial Revolution. Coffee most certainly played a role in the Industrial Revolution, not only to inspire the inventors and the investors, but also to enable the industrial workforce and make Britain truly great as an economic superpower. It should be noted that the long workdays, crowded cities, poor working conditions, and the migration from farms to cities had a negative impact as well, particularly on families and social morals and values. So the Industrial Revolution, which had started with some ideas of making the world a better place, had some decaying side effects. Coffee in Britain would go on to face challenges, but also be fuel to other pivotal points in time. But those are other stories for more than one cup of coffee. Thank you.